You are listening to the Hood Geniuses podcast with your host, Miss 100. The Hood Geniuses podcast now begins.
What's good, peoples? This is your host, Ms. 100. And with this episode today, I have one of my good friends. He has a success story. He goes by the name Gary Belly Jr. He's an attorney. We're just gonna sit back on this Sunday and just have open discussions about various topics, and just fall back and listen. You know what I'm saying? Because he got a lot to say. I got a lot to say. We're gonna chill, you know, and I'm gonna let him say where. You know, how he got his start, what made him want to be an attorney coming up from the hood in Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying? So I'm pass you the mic.
What's up, Ms. 100? What's going on, man?
Yeah. Talk a little bit into the mic.
Thanks for having me here, man. I appreciate the love of always supporting everything you've been doing. So where you want to know? Where you want me to start at?
Man, I mean, let them know, like, what part of Philly you from?
Well, you know, me and you go way back. I'm originally from Germantown, but also grew up in West Philly, too. That's where, you and me, I met back when we was young whippersnappers, 6, 7 years old?
Yeah.
Way back in the day. But I would say West Philly life is probably what contributed most to who I am. I know you were saying, what made me want to become an attorney? And it's funny, people always ask me that because they assume that's not the career that I always wanted. And it's funny, back in 4th grade, our teacher made us do a demonstration on the Dred Scott case. It's a Supreme Court case, one of the first few ones that people should look it up because it's really important about our history. But Dred Scott was a free slave that got away and then moved to a free state where he should have been able to just walk free. What happened was the slave master found him and took him and locked him up. Case went to court, and the Supreme Court determined that as Africans, if we were slaves, we were always slaves, even though you went to a state where slavery was outlawed or not present. A slave master could still come back and get you because you were his property. So that was one of the seminal cases that determined as Africans, even as human beings in a free state, we were not free. We were still human. We were still property. So that case and that little display way back in 4th grade had a long-standing oppression on me. I determined that that's what I wanted to do for life, which is to advocate for justice and to be a voice for the unheard, for the disenfranchised and taking advantage of people.
Oh, well, that's some deep shit there, brother. You know what I'm saying? I always thought, like, you wanted to be an attorney. I seen it in you, you know what I'm saying? When we used to have our little debates about sports and who we would smash in Hollywood, you know what I'm saying? You remember those debates back in the day? You know what I'm saying? Being, young, hot in the pants, teenagers and shit, you know what I mean? But we actually debated about all types of stuff at a young age. And if you remember, I used to call you the attorney, you know what I'm saying?
Of course I remember, and I always tell people, I didn't choose a profession, the profession chose me. I even go even deep. When you look at my first sign, I'm a Libra. What's the sign of Libra? Scales of justice. When you look at my personality, I love a good debate. I love a good discussion. But all those things were in me before I actually became a lawyer. You got to remember, I didn't officially go to law school and become a practicing attorney until my early 30s. So for the first pretty much half part of my life, you remember I did finance, I did some other career counseling stuff, but I did a couple of things. I was heavy in sports when I was in high school, but the profession chose me. I didn't choose the profession. It's just always part of who I am, and it's always part of who I will be.
Yeah. Look, let's have a keep it 100 moment right now. Keep it 100 moment for me right now.
You about to ask me some foul stuff.
Like, I mean, like, did you have a dream of like saying, well, damn, if I'm an attorney, how much money I could take under the table from drug dealers in Philly?
Yo, it's actually the opposite. One of the reasons I waited so long to become an attorney is because I didn't want to ever get caught up in criminal defense, because I know how bad and corrupt it is. So I never thought of that. My last 2 years of law school, I actually interned at the DA's office, and I saw the other side of just how corrupt the system is. So no, I never had that thought in my mind of how much money I could pocket, or any of the foul stuff I could do. I really always kept it straight to where I'm at now, which is I'm trying to help our people. I'm trying to advance our people. And in fact, I actually turned down shady deals, dirty money, and all those other things because I don't know where I'll be at 10, 15, 20 years from now, but I never want to be in a position where I have to answer for something that I did, before. I always want to be have the opportunity to be in a position to do positive and to grow. Especially if I run for political office or something like that. I don't need anybody coming back saying that I pocketed money or I did something foul.
Damn, okay. Yo, that's good shit. You know what I'm saying? Because usually, attorneys, a good majority of attorneys are known as sleazeballs. You know what I'm saying? Like sleeve bags and shit. Just burning people because they had the knowledge to do it. You know what I'm saying? But the good thing is that a lot of people may not know. Philly is just a tough city to come up in. You know what I mean? You have so many pressures to deal with, from the women to all the
drugs,
everything.
The violence, all that. And I come from a pretty big family. I mean, even in my house, 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and I got stories. We all had our situations. I mean, I always tell people I've been blessed. I come from a very broken home. My mother's been married and divorced 3 times. My father never married, like on and on. And that's where it starts for me. My parents, despite the fact they were never together, were almost like best friends in terms of being on the same page to raise me. The only difference between me and some of our friends that we grew up with is my mistakes weren't as big. I was always a risk taker. I would tote the line, but I knew where the line was and never crossed it. So, have I broken traffic laws? Of course. I was drinking at 14. I mean, did I mess around with chicks? I did everything. But a couple of things I never did was I never was into gambling, never was into drugs, and I never carried illegal weapons. Realistically, if you stay away from those 3 or 4 things, you can stay out of a lot of trouble, and that's what I pretty much did. I kept to my studies. I focused on the bigger picture, and a lot of things turned on my way. I mean, friends like you, family members always supported me and helped me to get to where I'm at. So that's something I'm always thankful and cognizant of.
Yeah, yo, that's good shit. I need another keep it real moment with you, because I heard you say you was, drinking 14 and dealing with the chicks and all that. Did you have to pay for any abortions out there as a teenager?
Okay, Nori, here you go. Listen, let me tell you something. I've never gotten a woman pregnant in my entire life. Now, only because you my man, I'm saying this on the airways, because that's not something I share. But it's never happening. I'm divorced.
Yeah.
So even within that, I consider that accomplishment. To me, that's the next closest thing to being a virgin.
Yeah, because at one point in back in them times when we was coming up as teenagers and early 20s and all that, that was like a hustle for some of the chicks in the hood.
Yeah.
You know, they was hustling dudes out of abortion money.
Listen, I personally have homies that I know have caused about 8 to 9 plus abortions. I think it's the most horrible thing in the world. But yeah, I mean, they say birds with feather flock together. No sir. Because I've never caused not one, but I have some friends who I know that their numbers are up there, and it's sad. Because we all agree on a statistic. I mean, disagree sometimes on a statistic, but isn't it out there, at least in the airwaves, that somewhere around 50% of black fetuses are aborted? Something like that.
That's crazy.
Again, it's one of them things to where I've always had a mindset to not contribute to the statistic. Never had an STD even. So you won't.
Yeah. That's that. Listen, that's me. That's me too. I don't care whoever don't believe that, but I never put in. I wasn't a firm believer in putting out raw work like that. You know what I'm saying? The hot dog came in a package. It's gonna go in a package. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't a firm believer that raw work like that, so I never got a STD, which I'm proud of that, whether y'all believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? But to stay on the theme of since you actually are an attorney, and that's on the same lines of politics and stuff like that. Recently, like last week, I think I was telling you about this earlier about T.I. Writing a letter to Lil Wayne about Lil Wayne's interview on Dateline about him basically not caring about Black Lives Matter movement. And this was Lil Wayne's exact words. He says, "Fuck Black Ladder." No, he said, "Fuck Black Lives Matter. My bitches matter."
Yeah, Wayne. First of all, we shouldn't even be talking about him, but it's okay. He's a topic for discussion. Lil Wayne is the epitome, and I'm gonna quote almost what T.I. said, but didn't go hard on it. On the Sambo, people say Uncle Tom, but Uncle Tom is not accurate based on the actual book in the movie. Sambo is the one that represents it, which is Lil Wayne understands that he's going to do and say whatever he needs to say to get attention, to make money, and to stay famous. So I don't even really put stock into anything that he does. I've never been a fan. I'm not a fan, and I can't stand him. But I appreciate, at least on some level, what T.I. has attempted to do. The reason I can't give him full credit, I can't give Snoop full credit, and a lot of rappers, is because they've made millions of dollars. Snoop is excess of 150 maybe? T.I. is probably around 40, 50, somewhere around that. They made all this money, and now in 2016, when it's say stand together, we gotta do the right thing, let's be positive, let's say to kids, I'm cool with that. Get the money back though. Because you're not going to Nino Brown me and steal the money from the community and give out turkeys. Like, no, I'm not buying that. You lost the credibility to say that when you're still living a lifestyle that was based on disrespecting and pillaging the community. So I appreciate you at least saying something, but I'm not jumping on the bandwagon until you start giving a lot of them checks back. You ain't got to give it all back, but you got to give a lot of it back. You know what I mean? Stoop said a lot of bitches and hoes ain't no fun. T.I. was doing a lot of strip club pillaging, and doing all that, to where now him calling out Lil Wayne is almost the epitome of the pot calling the kettle black. Like, no, you don't have that lane and that right to say that.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything you said. I didn't like what I seen what T.I. was doing as far as writing to Lil Wayne, or I guess that was his Instagram page or whatever. But my thing is, he was saying there that he's just, they're cool, they're friends, they good bros or whatever. But my thing is, if y'all really that cool, you don't even put something like that on social media. You know what I'm saying? You actually go see him. You know what I'm saying? If y'all supposed to be so cool, like to put that